Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel, Sandy's Happy Plants. So today I have to do some plant chores that I've been kind of putting off for a little while. And I know we're all kind of guilty of that sometimes. You see a plant that's not doing too well, it's kind of deteriorating, but you just don't want to deal with it at the moment, or something needs to be repotted, or something needs to be pruned. Yes, those kind of things. I know we're all guilty of that sometimes, procrastinating because we just don't want to deal with it. But I decided today's the day and I might as well do it in a video. And while I'm doing it, we might as well chat about something. So chores and chat. So the first plant I have to deal with is this little lipstick plant here. And it's grown quite a bit since I got it. I think I got it like a year ago or so. But I have noticed that it's kind of deteriorating. It's been kind of deteriorating for a little while. It's been getting like yellow leaves, and some of the stems are kind of bare, and when I shake it, a bunch of leaves fall off of it. So it needs some attention. So I figured what I'll do is I'll give it a little repot. So I'll repot it. And I have my little homemade repotting mat right here. It's not very fancy, but it serves its perfect purpose. It's just basically a yard waste bag that I cut, and this is just the bottom of the yard waste bag. It works. I know you can buy fancy repotting mats, but this works just as good. So I'm just gonna put the plant aside for a second so I can put on my gloves, since I don't want to ruin my nails. I'm so fancy. Just kidding. So you don't have to wear gloves, but I just, I like to get my nails done and I don't want to ruin them. I don't like when you get soil stuck under your nails. It's a pet peeve of mine and I really hate that, so I'm just gonna put on gloves. Anyways, so some of you have asked me what my accent is and where I'm from. So I'll tell you about it. I'm actually from Germany. So I was born in East Germany, also called the Democratic Republic of Germany, which is kind of the fancy name for it, but yeah, East Germany. And yeah, so I lived there. I was born there and I lived there until I was 9. And then I moved to West Germany. So I am from Germany, particularly East Germany. Yeah. Okay, so I angled the camera a little bit differently so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So here it is. It's pretty tight in there, so I'm gonna try to get it out by just kind of squeezing the sides of the pot. So you just kind of gently squeeze the pot, and I'm gonna lift it out after that. So yeah, East Germany is another thing that people ask me about a lot. And basically it came about because, as you all know, Germany lost the war, obviously. And after that, the Allies split up Germany and Russia got the East, which they made East Germany, and everybody else got the West and they made West Germany. So that's how that came about. Here it is. Here's the plant out of the pot. Anyways, that's the nutshell version. You can read up on it, but that's basically the Cliff Notes nutshell version of how East Germany came about. Okay, so let's get all this stuff out of here. So all these dried leaves and stuff. So I get that out, and I'll break up the root ball a little bit while I'm at it and get some of this old soil off of it. So you can see this, it's pretty root bound, but not too bad. It kind of has like a, the root system is kind of fragile. It doesn't have very big roots. So you want to be a little bit more careful with these roots when you're kind of breaking the root system up a little bit to repot it. So don't be too harsh with it, basically. So yeah, like I said, East Germany is one thing that a lot of people always ask me about, and how it was, where I grew up, and how things were different and all that kind of stuff. So basically, where I grew up in East Germany, it was a very small community. It was 6 or 7 streets, and my grandparents lived there, and my great-grandparents lived there, and all my friends lived there, and my auntie and uncle. Well, they weren't actually my auntie and uncle. I just, they were my parents' friends, but we called them auntie and uncle. I still call them auntie and uncle to this day, actually. And their kids are, I call my cousins still, even though they're not really family, not really cousins, but I still call them my cousins. So yeah, basically, we lived in this small little community that was just on the outskirts of a small town. And basically, we, as kids, were very kind of independent. We can do whatever we want. We could just basically spend all day outside on our bikes or in the forest, because everybody knew everybody. All the kids knew each other. All the parents knew who all the kids were and who they belonged to. So there wasn't really anything to worry about. So in that sense, it was pretty good as a kid to grow up there, honestly. I probably grew up a lot like a lot of people in their 60s and 70s here grew up. So basically, like, we didn't really have TV. Like, we had a TV, but it was a black and white TV, and it was really small, and we only had a couple channels, and we weren't really allowed to watch it like all day long or anything like that. We had like a couple shows that my parents would allow us to watch, but basically we weren't allowed to turn the TV on ourselves or anything like that. It was like, you know, my mom would turn the TV on and then say, okay, come watch your show before bedtime. And then basically we watch our show and then go to bed. And that's pretty much the extent of TV that we had. Obviously, we didn't have video games or anything like that. No phones. We actually didn't even have a phone in the house. Lots of people didn't have phones. Most people didn't have phones. Like not even a landline, nothing. Like my grandparents had a phone, and I think there was like 2 other people in the little settlement that we lived in that had a phone. But other than that, nobody had phones. Yeah, so there was a little corner store right at the beginning of our little settlement there, like right at the end of the street where I lived. And other than that, it was just houses of people. And yeah, so that's where I grew up. And like I said, we were outside a lot. As kids, we were very independent at a very young age, because in East Germany, it wasn't really like a thing to have a babysitter or anything like that. Like if parents wanted to go out, they would usually just leave the kids at home, and you know, if they want to go out at night, you just go to sleep, and that was that. And lots of times we were with our grandparents, of course, and you know, but my parents were away a lot. My dad was in the army, so he was always gone when I was little, and my mom worked a full-time job, so they were always away from home. And oftentimes our grandparents would have us, but there was also a lot of times we were home alone, and that was kind of the accepted thing to do back then. And honestly, we were really self-sufficient. Like, we would walk to my grandparents' house by ourselves when we were like 4 or 5 years old. No parents, we just walked there by ourselves. And yeah, it was just normal. I'd walk to school by myself when I got to school. And that was like a 3-kilometer walk, and I was like 6 years old, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I'd walk to school by myself. Yeah, it's pretty crazy now to think about it, but that was just normal back then. Yeah, anyways, I got it out of the pot, or I got it all separated now, the roots, and it's getting all tangled here, but I'll show you. So there you go. I'm just gonna separate this one, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave this one, but I'll take some of the old soil off. So there we go. And I'll get some a little bit more off. I just don't want to be too rough with it, because the root system of this is it's not a very big root system. They have these really kind of more fine roots, so you don't want to be too aggressive with it. Okay, so I'm gonna put this aside for now. I'm making a little bit of a mess still, see? But that's all right. Not as much as if I didn't have this. I'll angle it a little bit more down so you can see. Okay, so that's what I'm left with for now. So I'm just gonna put that aside and I'm gonna get the other pot. So I'm just gonna look for somewhere to put this right now. I'll just put it here. Okay, so I have already previously prepared my draining potting mix like this. And I talked about it in other videos, and I made a video on how to make it, so you can just check back. I'll link it in the description of this video, so if you want to know how to make it, you can make that yourself. All right, so then I took a slightly bigger pot. Maybe, let's see how much bigger it is. So this was the pot that it was in, and I'm gonna put it in this one. So it's like about 2 sizes up maybe. That's about good. You never want to go too far up, because then the plant just it just chocks the plant too much. So basically just fill the pot with like maybe half, let's say, although those roots are kind of long, so maybe not fully half, just maybe like about so, maybe about so. All right, so now you just put the other plants back in. So I'm just gonna grab them one by one. I kind of put them on the floor here because it's easier, because they're kind of all spindly and stuff. So then just place them in one by one. Well, maybe I'll fill it a little bit more soil in, potting mix rather than soil. And at first, like this. Okay, so then just continue to put the plants in like this. And I'm trying to get them all so that they're kind of hanging out the sides like that, so that it looks nice when I hang it later on. Yeah. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, East German school. All right, I can talk about school in East Germany. Well, school in East Germany was very different. It was very strict, almost, I would say, military training almost. It started very early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, and it went until about 3:30, and then after school you would go to an after-school program where you would do your homework and stuff like that. And there was like teachers present, and you would do your homework with them, and then your parents would pick you up from there. So the way it worked in East German school, it was obviously very political, and there was lots of political propaganda in every classroom. Every classroom had posters and pictures of the president, and like basically socialist propaganda everywhere that would say things like solidarity and socialism is great or whatever. I don't really remember. I was way too little to even understand what any of that meant, but yes, that's how school was. Every classroom had that kind of stuff, and the whole school basically had that kind of stuff. Yeah, and so when you would get to class, you had basically there was like 2 or 3 rows. I'm gonna angle this up a little bit so we can talk, so you can see me. So yeah, when you got into the classroom, there would be like 2 or 3 rows of desks, and those were called brigades, and you didn't have a choice where to sit. You just had to sit. They told you where to sit, and that was your seat for the whole year, and that was your in the brigade. So there was brigade 1, brigade 2, and brigade 3, for instance. And so you're always in the same brigade, and sometimes you had a brigade leader that was at the front, and that was a student that would like basically be in charge of your brigade. And yeah, so how it worked is the teacher would come in the morning, and you weren't allowed to talk or anything. You had to stand up. As soon as the teacher walked into the room, you had to stand up, and basically full attention on the teacher. No talking, no shuffling, no moving. You had to just look at the teacher, basically. So right now I'm just filling the other soil, the new soil on top. Sorry, little segue. Didn't segue at all, but whatever. So I got all the plants in here and I'm just filling the rest with the soil. The spaces, basically. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so basically the teacher would walk in, you have to all stand up, and all eyes on the teacher, no moving, no talking, no nothing. If you did, you would get in a lot of trouble. And I know that from experience because, yeah, I was not a model student. But anyways, the teacher would get to the front of the class and they would put down their stuff and whatever, and then they would turn to the students and salute. They would salute like this and say, for peace and socialism, be ready. That was the salute. And then in unison, all the students would have to salute and answer, always ready. Yeah, so yeah, very political. And obviously we had no idea what any of that meant. We were way too little, we were 6 years old. But anyways, let's not get into that. And the older kids had a different salute. I don't know what it was. I think it was friendship. I think they just had to say friendship, which I always thought was really weird. Like, why did we little kids have this long thing where we didn't even know what the hell we were saying? And the older kids can just say friendship. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. Oh, somebody's revving their engine outside. Anyways, it doesn't really make any sense. But I probably made sense to them. So yeah, that's how that was. And then after you salute, you have to sit down, and then the lesson would begin. So that's how that was. So anyways, I'm just trying to kind of make this look good and filling the soil in there. And I'm just doing it in this little, my little recycling bin that I use for everything, that I mix the soil in. I'm gonna stand up again because it's easier to show you. You don't want to press it too hard. Just kind of get it in there. Right now I'm just kind of situating them all around the edges so that it drapes over nicely. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, see? I situated all the plants around the edge of the pot. That way it will drape over nicely when I hang it. So I'm just gonna get a little bit more on the sides. And that's probably pretty good for the repot. Okay, so now that I have it in its fresh pot here, looks pretty good. But now I'm gonna just prune it a little bit, because I noticed that some of the stems are kind of bare, like right here, and nothing's gonna happen here. So I'm just gonna prune everything like that I see that's kind of dead or bare. I'm just gonna prune that off. All right, so I'm just gonna angle the camera down so that you can follow along, and I'll chat some more. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, I had a funny story to tell you about the brigades, actually. Like, you know how I was telling you that the rows in the classroom are called brigades? Well, as I was doing homework with my mom one day, and she was telling me, and well, she was reading something to me. And it was some homework about fields and brigades working in the fields. And I didn't understand. I got mad at her. I'm like, what do you mean brigades working in a field? How does that work? And she was like, well, you know, like they're working in the field. And I was like, huh? How are the brigades in the field? That doesn't even make any sense. Because to me, brigades were chairs and desks, you know, desks and chairs with students sitting in them. To me, that was a brigade because, you know, obviously we didn't understand what the word brigade actually meant. So to me, that's what that meant. So I couldn't understand for the life of me what my mom was talking about, and I got mad at her. I tended to get really upset when I was younger. If I didn't understand something, I'd get mad and I'd be like, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. And I was yelling at my mom, like, what is it? And so then my mom was so confused, and she was like, wait a second. What do you think? She asked me, she's like, what do you think a brigade is? And I thought she was crazy, right? It's like, how do you not know what a brigade is? I'm like, well, a brigade, like, you know, a brigade. like desks, chairs with children sitting in it, like a brigade. And my mom started laughing her ass off. And she's just laughing, which made me even more mad because I'm like, why is she laughing, right? And she's just laughing. And she's like, oh my God, right. She got it. And like, she's like, I get it. Like, that's what you think it is because from school. And she had to actually explain to me what a brigade is. It's actually like, you know, a brigade is like a brigade of workers or a brigade of people or whatever, you know, doing something together. And that's basically a brigade. But yeah, that was a really funny story that my mom told me. And I kind of remember this too. I actually remember a lot about when I was little, surprisingly. It's really interesting. I still remember like all the way till I was 2 years old. I remember lots and lots of things, but yeah, that's just a little funny story. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. I mean, I could, this one has like hardly anything on it here. It's just a long stem. Maybe I could cut this one too. Oh, maybe I'll leave it for now. I think this looks a lot better. So now I'm gonna put it into a hanging basket and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in this little hanging basket that I have here. It's pretty, I like it. Kind of natural looking, I like these kind of things. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in there. I'll probably have to undo one of these. They just kind of clip like this, they clip on like this. I'll probably have to undo it to get it in there. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll angle it down a little bit. There we go. I don't know if you can still see me. Oh yeah, a little bit. Hi. Anyways, so back to East German school. Aside from the very kind of militant structure of it, it was also very strict, and the stuff that we learned was very advanced, really. I know that I showed my husband actually this one of my grade 1 projects that I had to do. It was like homework for grade 1, and it was like this crazy 20-page essay with pictures and everything, and it was like about farming and fields and agriculture and how agriculture works and all this crazy stuff. And my husband was like, what? You did this in grade 1? Like, that's insane. That's like something that people would learn in grade 10 here. Like, honestly, that's how advanced it was. It was very, like, they did focus a lot on education. Education was very important, and it was very, very strict too. I remember you weren't allowed to write with your left hand, for instance. If you were a lefty naturally, they would just tell you, no, you're not allowed to write with your left hand. That happened to me, actually. When I first started writing, I actually kind of was teaching myself how to write when I was really young, like maybe 5 or so. And I started writing with my left hand. And my mom would tell me, no, you can't. Like, you have to write with your right hand. And I was like, why? She's like, you just have to. You can't write with your left hand. And I, of course, didn't understand it, but whatever. So I'm just trying to figure out this chain here. It's kind of like totally doesn't make any sense. Oh, it's tangled up down here. Anyways, so yeah, so I started writing with my right hand, which was way harder for me, but I had to because that's the way it was. And when I got into school, of course, it was the same. No writing with your left hand, only with your right hand. So yeah, that was very strict. And another thing that was, oh yeah, this is a little kind of a funny story about East German school. Oh my God, the bathrooms. The bathrooms seriously traumatized me to this day. The bathrooms in our school were horrible. They were basically, well, first of all, to go to the bathroom, you couldn't just go to the bathroom. You couldn't just say, hi, I need to go to the bathroom. No, like you had to go with somebody, like a chaperone. There was also, there was like a hall chaperone, and they would take you to the bathroom, and they would stand outside of the bathroom, and the bathroom didn't have a door, first of all, so they could hear and see whatever you're doing in there, basically. And then, to make matters worse, there were no doors on the stalls. So I'm gonna angle that so because I'm done here with this. But yeah, so basically the bathrooms were like stalls, but they had like little pony walls, so you could still look over top. And then the toilet was in there, and then no door. So basically you just had to go to the bathroom right there, no door, anyone could see you. Yeah, this is like, seriously, I still have dreams about these toilets. I think they gave me trauma for the rest of my life. Anyways, so here it is. I'm just gonna make it a little bit straighter in here. Oh, there we go. There. And obviously, like right now you can see the pot, but once it's hanging from above, you won't really be able to see the pot. So you'll kind of look like, if we can show you, like this basically. Yeah. So that's the first chore I had to do. So that's done. I'm gonna go quickly give it a nice water off camera, and then I'll come back and do the next. Okay, so the next plant I have to deal with is this really pathetic looking little Baltic blue pothos. And it's just, I don't even know if it's gonna make it, honestly, you guys. But it's just been declining. It was doing good there for a while. It was putting out new leaves and everything, but it's just been kind of dropping more leaves and just not doing anything. The end is not really producing a new caterpillar. It's not really going anywhere, and it's just staying really tiny and small. And yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut each leaf with a node, and I'm gonna stick it in some sphagnum moss and see if it'll propagate. And I'll even do the bare stem ones. Might as well try it. So I've been wanting to do that for a while because I've been looking at it and noticing that it is actually just not looking good at all. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut the sections. I have some dirt on my table. I'll have to clean later, clean the floors. Anyways, so you want to cut it basically to include a node, like I said in lots of other videos before. Always include a node in each cutting so that it can root, because the nodes is where the roots are going to come out of. So the nodes are these little brown things right here, and they're basically like little aerial roots that if you put it in a propagating medium like sphagnum moss or even just water, they'll form roots eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll tell you a little bit more about East Germany. So where did I leave off? Well, like I said before, I was still too little to really understand politically what was going on. But my parents would always say, don't talk to anybody about anything, you know, because there were spies all over the place, basically. And by spies, I mean, it could be your neighbor, could be your friend, because they didn't really have a choice in the matter, honestly. They would just make people spy on other people. Back to the plant. So I'm gonna actually take bare root. I'm gonna leave this one in, maybe, in the pot, because there's one node left. So maybe it'll do something. And these ones, I'm just gonna do the bare stem cuttings. So each of these little cuttings has actually a little root on it. You can probably see it. If I hold it too close, sometimes you can't see it, but there it is, like a little nub in there. Yeah, so I was too little, but I found out later, actually, when I was a little bit older, that my family actually had a Stasi file, and Stasi that was like the secret service of the East German government. And they did actually have a file on my family where we were called criminal person 1, 2, 3, and 4. So criminal person 1 was my dad, criminal person 2 was my mom, and then criminal person 3 and 4 was my sister and me. So yeah, crazy, huh? So I don't know exactly what we did to be deemed criminal persons, but yeah, that's how it was in East Germany. So anyways, now I'm gonna take these cuttings, and I'm just gonna I have prepared here a little glass with sphagnum moss and water. And so I'm just gonna keep, the water is in there just to keep the sphagnum moss moist, because it's supposed to stay moist at all times. I made a little video about a propagation, sphagnum moss propagation box, and you can check back if you want to see that video. That teaches you how to make a little bit more of a big elaborate setup. This is just a smaller version of that, and I'm just gonna leave it in the glass. I'm not even gonna worry about covering it or anything. I'm just gonna leave it like this, because it will root like this too. But yeah, if you want to see the other video, I'll link it in the description as well. So yeah, so I'm just going to stick these in and make sure that the little root portion is in the sphagnum moss. So yeah, I was talking about how we were criminal persons. And that could stem from the fact that my parents weren't party members, and they didn't really agree with the East German kind of regime, and don't get me wrong, there was lots of good things about East Germany, but there's also, you know, a lot of bad things as well. But yeah, and also my mom had connections in West Germany. She had some West German pen pals, and we would get West packages and West mail and stuff like that. So that would kind of put us on the suspicion list, I suppose. So, and like I said, there was spies everywhere, and the government would basically just go up to somebody and say, you have to spy on this person. And there was no choice in the matter. Like, they would tell you, you have to report to us about whoever it is. Could be your brother, could be your sister, could be your neighbor. It doesn't matter. And you would have no choice in the matter. You would have to do it. Otherwise you'd go to jail, or worse, I don't know. So yeah. One time, it's a little funny story. I don't know if it's funny, haha, funny, but kind of a funny story. When I was little, I was in kindergarten, and I drew a picture. I drew a picture of TV, and because, like I said, TV was fancy for us. It wasn't a day-to-day occurrence. It was something that, you know, was special. So I drew a picture of TV in a TV show, program, children's show, I'm sure. But in the corner of the picture, I drew the West German TV logo, and that's because my parents were actually pirating West German television, and obviously that was not allowed, and it was very bad. So when the teacher saw that I had drawn that, she basically called my mom at work right away, and when my mom got there, she got like reamed out hardcore by the teacher. Why does your daughter have this West German TV logo? How does she know about this? Where did she see that? Blah, 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 blah. And my mom was just like, oh, she was just trying to explain it away. Who knows where she saw that? Maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't even know. Does it really say that? She basically talked her way out of it, but that was a big deal. That I drew that in the corner of my picture. Yep. Anyways, like I said, as children, we didn't really understand, right, what was going on. Anyways, so here are all the little cuttings in a little jar, and I'm just gonna put this in a bright spot, not direct sun, just bright indirect light, and then in a few weeks or so, there should be roots developing. I'll give you guys an update on that one. And also the bare stem cuttings, you can see I just kind of stuck them in there so that the root is in the sphagnum moss and stays moist. So let's just see what happens. And this one, that was the original plant. I just basically cut it back to, there's only 2 nodes left on the stem and no leaves. I'll see what happens. I'll put it in the yard. I'll put it in a shady spot in the yard, let some rainwater get to it, see what it will do. Maybe it will do something, maybe not. Oh well, I'll keep you posted on that one too. Okay, so the next plant I gotta deal with is this ivy. It's like a variegated ivy, and it's in this pot. It doesn't have any drainage, but I've been watering it okay. It's doing fine. You don't always have to have drainage as long as you're careful with the watering. So yeah, but the problem with this is that it has this really long bare stem of nothing. So what I want to do is I want to cut it and cut it here, and then kind of chop it into smaller sections and propagate it probably back into the same pot. I'll just propagate it back in here. And yeah, I'm not going to repot it. I'll probably just fill it with a little bit more soil on top, just to get it a little bit more full in there, because it's a little empty. I'll break it up a little bit too with a spoon, just to kind of aerate the soil. Yeah, and so that's the next chore. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it. Again, you always want to look for nodes, and on these it looks a little bit different. They have a little bit of an aerial root, but they just look like little tiny little brown brown dots, basically brown raised dots on the stem. So I'm just gonna make sure that I include a couple. Here's a really good one, I think. I'm gonna just cut it right here. All right, so I'm gonna put this to the side, and then this long bare stem, I'm just gonna cut it off, but I'll leave like 1 or 2 nodes just in case it does decide to throw some new growth out. And I kind of can see a little bit here that there might be something coming, so I'll leave that on there. But the rest, I'll just I'll put it aside for now. I don't think I'm going to try propagating it, but we'll see. I'll put it aside for now. And then the other one, I might leave this one, honestly, because it's not that long of a bare stem. It's just kind of a little bit. So this one I'll leave alone for now. And then what I'll do is I'll cut these into shorter sections, and then pot them back into this pot. I can't remember what this ivy is called. I think it's an English ivy, variegated. I think it's beautiful. Hey, look at these leaves. They're really beautiful. So I really hope it makes it, because I really like it. Anyways, so what was I talking about? I was talking about, oh yeah, the Stasi file. The Stasi was basically the secret service of East Germany. And yes, and so later on, my parents actually did request their file to see it, because, well, they didn't know if they had a file, but they requested to see if they had a file, and they did. And so basically in the file it would say things like who reported it, and they blacked out the names of all the spies, obviously, because, like I said before, people didn't choose to spy most of the time, so they didn't want to get people into trouble with their friends or family. So basically they just they blacked out people's names, but it would say things like criminal person 2 took criminal person 2 and 3 to kindergarten, to like at this and this time, and stuff like that. So basically, like, they were following us around. I don't know what they were hoping to find, but I don't think they found anything, because we didn't really do anything. Anyways, so now I'm gonna put a little bit of fresh soil in here, or fresh potting mix rather. I'm gonna put on my gloves again for this part, because I'm a princess. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, well, this finger is stuck. I'm just reusing the same gloves that I was wearing earlier, as to not be wasteful. There's already enough plastic and stuff in the ocean, so don't really want to contribute to that, so probably shouldn't be wearing gloves at all, but you know. All right, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of this potting mix on top, just because the pot was a little empty. There we go. This is too thick. I'm gonna take some of that out. There, that looks about good. All right. And for this part, I probably won't need gloves. So I'll take them back off. So yeah, I was talking about the Stasi file. Yeah, and you know, like my parents can probably talk about this way better than me because, like I said, I was too young and you know, I didn't really know what was going on. Yeah. So other than all the political craziness, we actually had, like I said, our house is kind of outside of the city, outside of the town in a little area. And we had chickens and we had bunnies and we had cats. And I'll tell you some stories about that as well. Okay, so in the meantime, I will plant these little cuttings back in here. And after that, I'll give it a good water and then I'll hang it back up. First, I'm gonna actually, I was gonna say I'll cut this leaf because it has some brown on it and it's kind of at the end here, but you know what? I'm just gonna leave it on, I think. It will fall off naturally if it wants to. Yeah. Okay, so where we lived, my parents actually raised bunnies, and it wasn't all like, you know, happy bunny cuddling and all that. We raised the bunnies for meat and for their fur, I guess. So we raised bunnies, and we were little, so we didn't know what was going to happen to the bunnies. But yeah, so we had bunnies, and we also had chickens, and we had a really stupid rooster that would crow at he'd crow at 3 in the morning every day, and our neighbors were furious because this rooster would always crow and wake everybody up. And then a lot of people in the neighborhood had chickens because that was normal there. So then all the other roosters would wake up and start crowing. So basically our stupid rooster would wake up the whole neighborhood. And so my dad was just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this rooster. And this was after he got out of the army. And the army, by the way, the East German army was mandatory. So yeah, I'll angle this up a little bit. The East German army was mandatory, so you couldn't opt out, for men anyways. So you had to go, and if they called you, you had to go. And so my dad was in the reserves, so they kept calling him back, and so he had to go over and over into the army. But then he finally got out, and then you know, we had the chickens and all that. So my dad was just like furious with this rooster, and he was gonna, you know, take care of it. Because the neighbors were telling us to, like, either you take care of this rooster or, you know, we will do it for you, basically. So, it was really funny because we were doing, my dad was building the house, or he was doing renovations. Well, he was actually building a whole new section of house onto our existing house, which was very small. The house was my great-grandpa's house, and we moved into it, and then they were building like way more onto it, like a new addition onto it. So my dad was doing that with his friends and some other people, and so he needed cement. He needed some cement, and in East Germany it wasn't like you could just go buy cement. Like, I mean, you could, but if it was out of cement, if the stores were out of cement, then you were SOL. Like, basically there was no more cement. So you had to barter a lot, like for a lot of things, not only cement, like a lot of things you had to barter for. Like, hey, do you have a bag of flour? I need a bag of flour. Or do you want some eggs? Because we have chickens, or whatever it was, right? So we barter a lot. And so my dad needed a bag of cement. And this one guy who had cement, he needed a rooster for his chickens, because, you know, chickens, they usually need like the hens need a rooster so that they can fertilize the eggs, so that you can have eggs to eat. I mean, not eggs to eat. Those don't get fertilized. Never mind. No, so that you can have more chickens, rather. So in order to get eggs, you don't need to fertilize them. But in order to get more chickens, you need to fertilize them. Oh, this one came out. So I'm going to stick it back in on the other side here. Just trying to figure out a nice way. So anyways, so this guy needed a rooster. My dad needed cement. The guy had cement. My dad had a rooster, even though the rooster was stupid. He didn't tell the guy that the rooster was stupid, Basically, he traded the rooster for a bunch of cement for a house. Yeah, long story short, that guy ended up with our rooster. I don't know how that ever ended up. I don't know how the story ended, but he never seemed to complain about it, so who knows. Okay, so this is what it looks like now that I have all the cuttings in the pot. That looks a lot better, looks a lot fuller. And I'm gonna go over the sink and I'm gonna give it a good water. This one looks a little weird because it's bare stem, but I'm gonna leave it for now. See what happens. If these root, if it goes good, then I might cut the other one too. But keep a little bit of a safety net, so to speak. And I'll give you guys an update on that as well in another episode. Okay, so the next plant that I have to deal with is this little jade runner plant. And I noticed that a lot of the tips are getting brown and falling off and getting crunchy leaves. So I'm gonna prune it. I'm just gonna prune all the dead stuff off and basically hope for the best. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna put it on this, my little repotting mat. But I'm gonna put it on here so that all the dead ends can just kind of fall into there. And I'll angle the camera down again so you can follow along. Hopefully you can see it good. Here we go. We'll get it a little closer. Okay. So basically I'm just gonna cut, and some of them might look like I'm cutting good stuff off, but there's bad stuff behind it. So I'm just gonna be brutal and cut it. So yeah, I was talking about having chickens and stuff, and the reason why a lot of people had chickens and bunnies and all kind of other animals, or just like you know, lots of fruit trees and gardens. Like we also had a big vegetable garden with all sorts of vegetables that we're growing ourselves. And the reason for that is that you couldn't really buy a lot of things in East Germany. It was very limited as to what kind of stuff you can buy in the stores. Like for instance, bananas were never available. You could get bananas maybe once or twice a year, and then you'd have to stand in line. Like you have to line up. Like my mom would line up at like 4 in the morning before the store opens, and there would already be a line there. And you'd have to line up because somebody would know that the store is getting bananas in. So yeah, people would line up, and then they would ask you like, okay, how many people in your house? And you would get 1 banana for each person in the house. So it wasn't like here where you can just buy whatever you want. Everything was basically, you know, rationed, or there was a lot of control. And well, there just wasn't anything available. Like I was talking about our little corner store that we had at the end of our street. And it was like a food store. They had food there. They had everything there. You know, like shampoo and all that kind of stuff. But it was very small. It was like as big as our living room, maybe a little bit bigger, but small. Oh, look here, a little piece came off, so I'm just gonna propagate that later. If I can. Oh yeah, there's some notes on there. So basically, like there was nothing available. It always perplexes me still to this day when I go into, like, I'm just gonna make a comparison. Like when I go into the store and see the shampoo and conditioner aisle, for instance, like that is insane to me. Like there's like hundreds of different kinds of shampoo and conditioner. Like there was like 1 or 2 kinds in East Germany. That's it. Like everybody had the same shampoo. Everybody, I don't even think there was conditioner. You know, and for food, it was nothing. Like there was maybe a couple, you know, rotten apples in the corner, maybe some potatoes. Like there was really nothing unless you grew it yourself. And we were really, really lucky, fortunate to be living where we were living, outside of the town. So we had the space to grow everything. And my grandparents and my great-grandparents were both, they had gardens. So they had huge gardens with basically apple trees and plum trees and peach trees and everything, and any kind of vegetable and tree you can imagine, cherries. And they actually And yeah, and that's another story. I'll talk about that another time, about my time with my grandma and her flower business, because she sold flowers as well. And those are some of my earliest memories, working with her, preparing all the bouquets and getting all the flowers ready and all that. But anyways, that's another story. I'm just snipping away here. So yeah, so that's why we had chickens and bunnies, and you know, we were little, we didn't know that the bunnies were getting slaughtered, and we often ate them, but we didn't know that we were eating them because we were little. But there is actually a funny story about one time, like we had cats as well. We had a cat, and then we had bunnies, obviously. And so one time the bunnies had too many babies, and so the bunny mother couldn't feed all the bunny babies because she had too many babies and she couldn't make enough milk. And this is a really cute story, actually. So at the same time, actually, the cat had babies, and the cat only had two or three kittens or something like that. Yeah, 2 or 3 it was. And so what my mom did, she took the bunny babies and actually put them, she rotated them. So the bunny, I think, had like 10 babies or something crazy like that. So she took 3 or 4 bunny babies and put them with the cat, with the kittens. And the cat just took them and nursed them just like her own babies. It was really cute. We were actually in the paper. My mom was actually in the paper for this, because every couple of days she'd switch them out. She'd get some new bunnies and put the other bunnies back in with the bunny mom, because, you know, just so that they can, you know, learn how to be bunnies. But yeah, so she would do that, and all the bunnies survived. And yeah, so that was pretty ingenious. That was a pretty cool story. And then one day, actually, and this is kind of sad, but one day actually my mom found out, that was kind of shortly after this, that all of our bunnies got this crazy disease. It was like a bunny disease, and we had to kill all of them. So yeah, I didn't know what happened to the bunnies back then. I mean, I think I remember my parents saying that they had to kill them because they were sick, or just they were sick and they were going to die. I don't know, but I remember being really sad about that. Anyways, so yeah. What else? There's so much stuff in here. Like, it's like all these little dried up little pieces of leaves that I'm just getting out of the pot. Yeah, it's really annoying. And there's new growth in here underneath it, so it's actually kind of really nice. I don't know if you can see that. It's trying to come through the little white new growth there, kind of trying to come through all the dirt, all the dead stuff here. So yeah, so I was talking about how nothing was available, and that's why, like I was saying that my mom knew people in West Germany, and she was pen pals with people in West Germany. So they would send us what was called West packages. So basically, a West package was a package, little care package from the West, and they would send us things like chocolate and gummy bears, like all the stuff that wasn't really available in East Germany. Candy, toys. For my mom, they would send like pantyhose and soap and nice like perfumes or something like that. So it's like nice luxury items that weren't available to us. So that is what a West package was. And they wouldn't come through all the time because there was a lot of pilfering going on, obviously, at the post office. So they would disappear sometimes because everybody wanted that stuff as well. But lots of times we would get them, and we would make a huge deal out of it. The whole family would sit at the table, and when my dad was in the army, we would wait until he was on leave. Sometimes he would get leave for a weekend or so, and so we'd all sit at the table and we open it together as a family, and yeah, it was really special. And obviously we were kids and we just wanted to eat all the chocolate and gummy bears. but my parents would, you know, kind of ration it and say, no, not everything at once. And I remember one time we got Hubba Bubba gum, and because we didn't have any of that in East Germany. So Hubba Bubba gum, and I remember it was so good. I chewed that piece of gum until it fell apart. I chewed that piece of gum, and at night I put it on my nightstand. I took it out of my mouth, put it on my nightstand, and basically put it back in my mouth the next day. That's so gross. But that's how much it meant to us. Like, that's how special it was to have that piece of gum. And yeah, so that's what that is all about. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much done here. I'm just kind of trimming. I think that looks a lot better already. Let's see. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. So all right, another chore done. Okay, so that's it for today. I ran out of plants, but I have a lot more stories where those came from. So if you are interested, let me know in the comment section if you want to hear more, and I'll do another one like this. And if not, let me know too. Anyways, I really appreciate all you guys being here, and please subscribe to my channel so that you never miss an episode if you enjoy the content that is. And in the meantime, enjoy your plants, have fun, stay happy, stay healthy. See you next time. Bye.